Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Izam, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to create this vector art of a Game Boy. So this is a very stylized version and it's not exactly in proportion to the real Game Boy. But anyway, I'm going to show you how to do it, and I did it using Affinity Designer for the iPad. I'm using the iPad Pro. You can be using any kinds of iPad as long as you can run Affinity Designer. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay guys, so today we're going to do a vector artwork. We're going to create a Game Boy in vector. Let's create a rectangle, and this rectangle will be about this size. Alright, I'm going to let it have a rounded edge. So use this corner here, you see this red dot, you can actually move it to control the amount of roundness in all these corners. Now for a Game Boy, all these three corners are the same except for this right corner. We have to make this corner a big one. So to do that, let's tap onto curve. So what we're going to do is get this node and tap here and tap here. And for this node, we're going to delete, and this we are going to delete. And then we're going to have another node around here. We're going to drag this corner over there, and we're going to use this corner tool and to drag it like that. Okay, so in this case, let's move this corner, let's move this node further to the left, and let's move this further upwards. And then now we're going to adjust this corner more like that. Okay, so now we have a very nice curve down here. The next thing that we're going to do is grab this shape, okay, this object again, use the pointer tool, the move tool, and we're going to duplicate. So use two fingers on the screen and just move it like that. We have to change the color to, let's say, black. I think black is fine for now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to resize this and drag it over here. We're going to drag it somewhere in here so that we give some space at the top. Okay, but now we have to resize it. To resize it, I want to resize to drag this longer like that. So I'm going to use one finger on the screen so that I will constrain the movement, the dragging movement, like that, horizontally, and we are done. Okay, so I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to drag it some more like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use the move tool again, select all of this, and we're going to align it. So use this option here and tap on align option and align it horizontally. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make it shorter. So select these nodes below and drag upwards, just like that. Alright, now we're not going to make the Game Boy exactly the same in proportion. This is going to be a stylized Game Boy. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is to have the green screen right in the middle. It's just a square. So create a square by tapping on, use your one finger on the screen and drag to create a perfect square. And then change the color. We're going to change the color. I'm going to choose green, somewhat an olive green. Let's scroll and try to find the right green. Okay, maybe this green will do. Alright, so on your end, if you're following, you can choose the green color that you like. Alright, notice that it is snapping, so you can turn on snapping on the options there for your own, if you prefer. Here, snapping, you can set all these to snap so that it makes your life so much easier. Okay, so this is done. The next thing that we're going to do is to have this battery indicator over here. It's just a small red circle. So tap here and choose ellipse, and then use one finger on the screen to drag this thing, and we're going to change the color to red. I'm going to choose this red, and we are going to move this over here, something like that, and we're done. So the next thing that we're going to do is the D-pad, the directional button. So to do that, let's see if there is any options that we can use so that we can make our life easier. Let's start with a square star. Maybe we can set it to 4, like that. Alright, perfect. So what I did was I choose this, and I chose square star, and for the sides I chose 4. So now we have a very nice X over there. Okay, so now you can actually change and modify the cut out percentage like that. So I want it to be like this, and then I'm gonna use the move tool, and I'm going to rotate to make it into a plus sign over that. Alright, so now I'm going to change the color to black. Done and done. So I like this. I think this is perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to round these corners over here. Alright, so we have to do this. Tap on the square star tool again and tap to curve. So now what we're going to do is use this corner tool and tap on this, press one finger and tap on this again, this, and this, all the outer corners. And now we're going to raise the radius. I'm raising it to about 7 pixels. I think this is fine, and I think we're good to go. Alright, so this is done. The next thing that we're going to do is the A and B buttons. So the A and B buttons are basically just ellipses. It's just a perfect circle. It's going to be like this, about this size, and it's going to be red in color. We choose the recent color over here, and I think it should be a much darker color than the battery indicator, so I think I'm going to choose this color. So that is done. I'm going to move it over here. Alright, so it's aligned with this bar over here of the plus sign, and I'm going to use 2 fingers and drag it over here to duplicate and just move it there. This line over here, let's place this over here, okay, so that it is aligned. This as well, so that it is aligned to the edge of this screen over here. Okay, this is perfect. So now the next thing that we're going to do is, actually we have to make another a rounded rectangle to create this housing for these 2 buttons. So have this change to a rectangle and drag it like that. Alright, and for this case we need to have a rounded corner and make it as round as you can to the max. For this we're going to choose this color, the same color as this, but it has to be of a darker hue. Let's try this, something like that. Okay, so now we're just going to rotate it about there. Sorry, go back to the move tool. Something like this, but not exactly. Something like this. Okay, and we have to make it a bit bigger. Something like that to contain the 2 buttons. And that much. Let's see whether the 2 buttons will fit. We have to move this layer below the 2 buttons and grab this button and place it there and move it to the left and move it a bit down, and this as well. Let's move it over here. Okay, this is generally done, and this one I'm going to move it closer and move it closer over here. This one as well. Alright, you see how the snapping works? It's very useful over here, what we're doing right now. Okay, so that is pretty much done. I'm going to move it a little bit, somewhat like that, so that it has equidistant. Okay, so that it fits. It's like a bezel for these two buttons. So that is done. The next thing we're going to add is the start and the select button. So again, it's going to be a rectangle, and it's going to be a rounded rectangle. So change that to a round rectangle, and this is going to have a black color on it. Alright, so this black color button, I'm going to change the roundness again. Alright, I'm going to tap and drag this red dot over here. If you can see it, that's how you control the amount of roundness. So I'm going to put this over here. Alright, and I'm going to make it a bit smaller, something like that. So now that we have this, we need to rotate this about there, somewhat of the same angle as this previous rounded rectangle. So now we have to duplicate this. So I'm going to zoom in, I'm going to use 2 fingers on the screen and drag, and I'm going to move it here, something like this. Okay, so we have some space over here between this and this space, and we are almost done. The next thing that we're going to do is the housing for this one. I mean the depression for this that will contain this button. So I think the easiest way is to duplicate that. Alright, and use this color. Is this the same color? It is a bit darker. I think it's the same color as this color, so which is good. Now what we have to do is we have to place it in the same place and just make it a bit bigger than that. Okay, let's see. Check your layers. We're gonna put this layer right below there. Alright, so as you can see, this needs some more work. We're gonna pull it out a little bit. That is done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 fingers again and drag this and place it over here. Okay, so now we're just going to place it like so. Alright, I think it's fine. Okay, oops, I moved it. Okay, so now this is done. What we're going to do now is the speaker grills over here. So the speaker grills are also rounded rectangles. So we're going to choose this, have it as a rounded rectangle, and now we're going to change the roundness like that. Okay, so this rounded rectangle, we're going to change the color now. We're going to change the color to a gray color like that, and I'm going to rotate about there, and I'm going to place it here. I'm going to change the size lower below this button, and I'm going to change the size to make it thinner. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we just duplicate this and just drag it over here and do the same thing, and we're pretty much done. So this is done. The next thing that we're going to do is add some details. For example, the shininess of this button. So the next thing we're going to do for this button, we're going to add a rounded rectangle. So a very thin and small one, so that it fits on top of this plus sign. I'm going to change this color to white, and I'm going to change this to a rounded rectangle. I'm going to change to the move tool and drag this and place it over here. I am going back to the rectangle tool, and I'm going to change the roundness. Change the move tool, make it a bit smaller. Let's see, okay. And I'm going to place it over here. This is done. I'm going to duplicate this, tap here, use 2 fingers and place it over here. I'm going to make it longer. I'm going to duplicate and use 1 finger on the screen to drag, to constrain it horizontally. And we are done for now. let's have a circle, because I remember there is a circle over here on the D-pad. So change this tool and use ellipse. We're gonna have a circle, a perfect circle. So now we're gonna change this to a dark gray, maybe have it darker, and let's place it, change to the move tool and place it over here. Alright, so that's the reflection. Now we need a reflection for this. So an easy way to do that is to create a circle. But since we already have a circle here, so what we do is we just duplicate this. So to duplicate that, just use 2 fingers and drag it over there. And now we're going to change the color. We're going to change the color to white. And then select ellipse tool and make sure you change this to a donut. This donut, let's have the whole radius very big percentage, about 90 or 85. Alright, so then we're gonna change the start angle and the end angle. Let's see what we can get. Something like this. Alright, this is what I want to get. So the angle is like this, 91 and 165. So once that is done, we're gonna tap the curve, because I want to round off these corners over here. So use this corner tool and select. I'm going to press 1 finger and select this, this and this. Alright, so now I'm going to move the radius to here, fully rounded. So I'm going to move now and place it over there. And I'm going to duplicate that and place it over here. You can't see it because it's right over here. So I'm going to use and I'm going to drag this layer right below. And I'm going to adjust this position. Did I just resize it? Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna adjust the position and place it over there. Alright, so this is done. So another fine details that we can add is this at the top layer. There is this groove over here, a bit grayish in color. We're gonna use a rectangle tool and we're gonna set the color to about this color, about somewhat grayish. And the line starts here, the groove starts here. Okay, something like that. It's not so dark like this, so we're gonna adjust the black value like that. I think we set it to this color first. I think this color is much better. Okay, it's just a very light gray. And let's take this and resize it. Use the move tool and drag it over here. It's just under the curve. So let's select all these, okay, and let's group it. Alright, so that it won't look like a whole big chunk of mess. So now let's create a vector layer. So this vector layer, let's drag it below this group and we're going to create the background. So just tap this rectangle and drag it, covering the whole canvas. I'm going to color this rectangle as, okay, blue. Blue looks good. So the next thing that I want to do is I am going to add some shadows running from here downwards like that. The next thing that we have to do is to create a new layer, and this particular background I'm going to lock it. So what you do is tap on this layer, the background layer, tap on this options, layer options, and tap lock. Go back. This is where I will draw the shadow. So it's going to run, it's going to be from here and here going downwards. So let's create a rectangle first. Let's see. It has to be, okay, choose this fill tool and we're going to change this to linear. Alright, let's move this over here and move this over here. So you see it gradually blends like that. But let's choose the first color. The first color is that color. We're not going to use that color. We're going to change it to this color, gray, and it will blend all the way to the same gray, but opacity is set to 0. Alright, so it blends nicely like that. So now we're going to use this and we're going to rotate somewhat like that. Then we're going to move it over here. You see, just at this corner over there, And let's resize this. Okay, you see that this is sticking out, right? So let's just move this aside and put it over there, something like that. First, let's lock this layer. Tap here and tap this option and lock it. Tap the move tool to select this. Tap the rectangle tool and tap the curve. Now we can add the node. Tap here to add the node, and now we can move this upwards. Okay, but before we can do that, let's make some changes. Add some node, another node over here. So now what we do is we're gonna tap this node, placing one finger on the screen, tap this node, and I'm gonna move it like that. Okay, such that it will somewhat cover this later on. Okay, so now we are going to move these two nodes over here like that. Okay, I use one finger to constrain the movement. So next we're going to drag it like that. Okay, notice that this line is not straight, so let's move it further to make it closer, to make it straight like that. Okay, and pull it up like that. And now we can adjust the gradient if you wish. Let's make the opacity a bit lighter, about 33%. You can add some more details if you wish, like here for the phone jack, headphone jack, and some details here for the on-off buttons. You can add some words over here if you wish. Alright, so I hope you liked that video. I hope you can follow through. If you can't, just rerun this video and keep trying. If you do like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe by clicking on that subscribe button right there. And until then, have a great day ahead, and I'll see you in the next video.